Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ahmed and welcome to my research presentation. First, we start by looking at our research topic. In this study, we're trying to investigate the relationship between tighter deadlines faced by subcontractors and its impact on safety outcomes. This provides an opportunity to develop proactive prevention strategies by studying the decisions and actions in such cases. This was a gap that was identified by searching literature on our main topic, which was operation management of gas pipeline construction in Australia. In order to do so, we used mind mapping to build on literature and identify gaps. Research themes identified include operation management in gas pipeline projects, project management of construction projects, and Australia's current natural gas projects. Sub-pockets were identified for these themes. For example, under operation management, safety and maintenance were the sub-pockets, and under project management, risk, and the role of contractor and subcontractor in project safety were the sub-pockets. These were shortlisted based on research from secondary sources. This was followed by synthesis of literature to develop conclusions. For instance, safety was considered as compliance to standards as well as expert advice, but was greatly influenced by government fluency and management's commitment to safety. Similarly, other sub-pockets led to different conclusions. Next step was to research the findings from primary sources relevant to the conclusions synthesized. In case of contractors and subcontractors' role, their selection process, role in safety, contractual transfers, and management support to the subcontractors were some of the key findings. Finally, gaps were established in the primary findings, and links, including both supporting and conflicting, were identified. For this study, it was found the safety performance investigations performed used fewer samples and were limited to specific countries. And it was found safety was influenced greatly in multi-tiered chains of management, but was mostly investigated using outdated case studies and reports. Links were found to be conflicting and explanation on both sides of the story. For instance, the contractor's justification for adherence to safety conflicted by the subcontractor's problem in case of performance pressures from the top management. All this can be seen in the literature mind map seen on the slide. This brings us to our research question. Are tighter deadlines threatening safety performance of subcontractors? Clearly, literature establishes existence of negative relationship between the two and renders it as a practical dilemma because of high priority to financial gains and the level of competition. Our research intends to provide a framework to measure safety performance in real ongoing projects to understand what goes wrong in case of tight deadlines, the decision making. Remember, we do not seek to establish the causes of tight deadline as it has already been established in the literature. Rather, we aim to address its influence on safety performance. Moving on to the literature review, very limited research has been conducted on outsourcing and adverse safety outcomes. Studies report around 16 studies undertaken to explain the relation between the two and report a decline in the recent research frequency since 2008. When we talk about unsafe practices at the worker's end, there are lots of dominant factors on management's account that lead up to the human errors. James Reason's Swiss cheese model explains this hierarchy by considering active failures and latent factors that causes holes in the defense barrier of the management's system before a potential hazard passes through these aligned holes in the defense barriers and meets the human failure to cause an incident. The different defense barriers are shown in the following figure using different layers of Swiss cheese. A step forward from Swiss cheese model is a more philosophical approach which includes understanding the perception of workers in regards to the implemented safety management programs. A study examined the perception of workers using an ongoing construction program in the US. It included the interactions with workers and managers via questionnaires in order to find the successful factors that management should focus on while developing safety programs in order to generate a positive safety culture. Another study was conducted on West Ray mine incident, which discusses the explosion in the mine and its relation with productivity pressures, as the inquiry commission clearly stated that productivity pressure was one of the major causes for this incident. It uses a dynamic model based on previous case reports that accounts for the non-linear relationship between different hazards. Unlike Swiss cheese model, it uses feedback loops to demonstrate that safety priority actually leads to higher productivity. Now we look at the critique of the presented literature. Swiss cheese model is often critiqued for being too biased in favor of workers. It fails to show the relation of the holes in the Swiss cheese in context of the real world and what these holes actually represent. Overall, it lacks the modern-day flexibility required. Perception of workers that was investigated based on a US-based study lacks objectivity. For example, instead of identifying how tight schedules are leading to workplace incidents, current literature establishes that productivity pressures lead to accidents. The dynamic approach used in modeling a Westray disaster is a post-accident analysis. Its ability to be applied to real projects is debatable. Moreover, it does not account for external factors such as the geological conditions, the role of government in the Westray incident. However, it is a useful tool for investigation. Our research aims to add to the limited body of knowledge on adverse safety outcomes caused in projects that employ subcontracted workers. Secondly, to provide a tool to qualitatively measure the real-time construction projects working under tight schedules and provide basis for developing proactive responses. And finally, to develop an objective approach to explain the relation between productivity pressure and unsafe practices leading to accidents. Our design is based on two important sources of data. One is primary and qualitative, while the other is secondary and quantitative. The primary source provides us with the metrics to measure safety for ongoing projects by interviewing personnel in order to develop proactive safety measures, while the secondary source uses the principle of earned schedules such as schedule performance indexes on 12 completed projects and compares their final schedule against a calculated schedule using the index, the schedule performance index. This reinforces the validity of the technique. Table 1 and Figure 3 shows the list of metrics and earned schedule concept respectively. Our research design is a correlation analysis between the two variables, which are tight deadlines and safety performance. The design includes a study on 20 ongoing construction projects based in New South Wales, Australia. A research team consisting of 5 members, 3 project planning experts and 2 safety professionals are responsible for conducting interviews and meetings with finance managers in order to obtain financial information and identifying the safety commitment of the workers on site. 9 projects were identified to be behind schedule at closure stages by calculating the SPIs based on the information provided by the finance managers, and safety was measured for these projects using the selected indicators. The strength of our design is that the selected 20 ongoing projects belong to different sectors of constructions such as infrastructure, transport, housing, etc. This ensures that the sample size is abundant and random. Secondly, it's a primary design involving face-to-face interactions. Moreover, the scale of the projects chosen ranges from medium to large with comparable sizes of workforce and financial budgets in order to keep the results as accurate as possible. Finally, the expert team assured reliability of the research approach as relevant studies were cross-examined. The limitation of our design includes the lack of the cause and effect factor as it's a correlation design, and since there are no control curves, the design does not account for external factors. Eventually, this clearly answers the objective of our research by identifying the actions and decisions of the workers in response to deadline pressures and provides a framework for future work to develop specific proactive prevention strategies. Thanks for watching.